Hey guys, today's video is going to be fiction books for Christian young adults. So the reason I'm specifying this is because there's a lot of YA or young adult books out there nowadays, and let's be honest, they're rated R. So today's video is going to be books that I think are great options for your kids. A lot of these are classics, but I just want to bring them to your attention because sometimes it feels like I don't know what to have my kids read. There's some really awesome books, and some of these authors have a lot of books. So let's get into this list right now. The first one I'm going to talk about is Georgette Heyer. She wrote a lot of books. I have found all of these on my local Goodwill. Even these ones are like brand new editions. I mean, I don't know who got rid of these at Goodwill, but I was like, thank you. Anyway, she is an incredible writer. Her stories are very eloquent. She has some that are like detective stories, and those are really cool. And then these ones are obviously more like romance. I'm going to be honest here, like most of these are books I think girls would enjoy more than boys, but there are some for the boys on this list. If you read the back, it almost sounds like a modern romance as far as content, if you know what I mean. However, they're not like that. I mean, the books are clean, they're appropriate, they're full of beautiful Old English. She lived from the 1920s to the 1970s, but she wrote about Regency England. So she wrote books that were like set way before her time, and they are just lovely. I would definitely recommend her books if your daughter is looking for something she doesn't quite know what to pick up next and you're not sure because you don't know what's on the shelves these days. These are really, really good books, and the plots are so interesting. She's so good at making even the romance stories are also kind of mysterious, and they're just good. They're so good. Don't take my word for it. Go pick up some Georgette Heyer books. The next one is Agatha Christie. She wrote 66 books. That's novels plus short stories. So obviously you might be more familiar with her most popular character, Hercule. I think we could say his first name. He is hilarious. And again, I picked this gigantic hardback up at Goodwill for $2. And there's the library, which would have a ton of Agatha Christie books. But Agatha Christie, as you probably know, writes a lot of mystery novels. So this is actually a book that my 13-year-old can read. And I just think these books are so good. Again, so much variety in the writing, so much deeper than a lot of books nowadays. I just think these books draw me in so much better because I think that the writing is so much more broad, and the vocabulary, and yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things. I don't love every single story, to be clear. And it's not because they're bad. I just don't love every single one. Definitely recommend more Agatha Christie books. Library, Goodwills, they're out there and they're a great option. Okay, next up is James Herriot. James Herriot is a really great author if you love animals, if you love a good story, if you love descriptive writing. So some of them are short stories, some of them are full novels, but he wrote a lot of good books, but they are really beautiful, really well written, and the stories are so sweet. I love reading these out loud to my kids. They really, really like the stories. There's also a show on PBS. It's called All Creatures Great and Small. I've watched all the first season, and I loved it. So I can't say beyond the first season, but the first season I thought was really clean, really sweet, a good family show. My husband and I watched it on our own, but we do want to let all the kids watch it because we think they would all enjoy it. So if you're looking for a good show to go along with a good book and a good author, I would definitely look up All Creatures Great and Small because it was really good. And then this is a great book to read to go along with it. Okay, the next one is Linda Chaikin, and I love this author. This is actually probably my favorite series as a young adult myself. And she wrote several different series. The Trade Wind series, this is called the Egypt series, and I think the Silk series, that sounds right. She wrote a lot of really good books, and these are just Christian fiction books that are clean and fun, and this one in particular was set at the beginning of World War I in Egypt. I remember reading this book and feeling like I was on the sands, and I was in Cairo, and I was looking in the tombs, and I was exploring all these things, and it gave me a love of all things Egypt when I read this book. And if you have not heard of this author, or you've not read it yourself, I would definitely recommend it for girls, and I'd also recommend it for moms if they want something fun to read. A sweet, wonderful romance. I really loved these. The next author is actually Mary Stewart, and she wrote a lot of books that I wouldn't recommend. I just didn't like them. They were very magical and not in the way that I like. But these ones were amazing. This Rough Magic Don't let the title turn you off. It's actually just a line from The Tempest, from like Shakespeare, and it's set on the island of Corfu. It is so beautifully written. Mary Stewart just draws you in. You feel like you are lying on the beach with Philippa and you're experiencing all the things, and it's a mystery and it's a thriller, and it was just such a good read. I reread it pretty often because it's just one of my favorite books, and my sister got me this beautiful like beachy themed bookmark to go with the book because it's just one of our favorites that we both reread on a somewhat regular basis. Again, I wouldn't recommend everything by her, but this one also is just a mystery. All the books by Mary Stewart have very eloquent writing and descriptions, like descriptive words that they just don't write with anymore. When I read these books, I just feel like there's so much more to the stories and so much more depth to the writing, and I appreciate them more because of that. I just love them, and I think it could be boys or girls because of the mystery element.
So the next author that I have to recommend is a little bit different than these other authors. Actually, very different. Most of them are older authors, and they're no longer with us in person. And this author is still writing today, and he is my favorite living author. The author that I'm referring to is Brandon Sanderson. And if your child reads fantasy or likes fantasy, they probably know who this author is because he's pretty famous right now. He just posted a new video saying that he wrote several novels during 2020 and he surprised everybody with it. And last I checked, his video announcing that was the highest trending video on YouTube, which is crazy. Now, some of the things that are different about his books. First of all, they have a lot of magic in them, or I'm not even sure what I call it magic. He does something called world building. And what that is, if you're not familiar with that term, is that he's basically created this other like universe in which his stories take place. These are some of the books that we own by him. I've also listened to a number of them. And like I said, they are just very fantastical, set in another world. The other world is called the Cosmere. I mean, it's a whole other world. There's so much to explain, right? There are magical swords and gods and goddesses and priests and priestesses. I love how descriptive he is. I love how he world builds. I have just really enjoyed the books by Brandon Sanderson. That he wrote some that were middle grade. One of them that I really enjoyed that was middle grade was Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. And that was a really fun book. It was so funny, in fact, that when I started to listen to it, I had to stop, restart it, and listen to it with my kids because I thought they would just laugh and I thought they would love it so much I had to share it with them. My little disclaimer for the Brandon Sanderson, in the books that he writes for YA or for adults, there are a few swear words. There's some battle scenes that are like kind of graphic, but nothing compared to the other books I've read that I just felt like were so inappropriate for young adults or anyone under the age of 18. If I were to rate them, like if you wanted a movie rating, I would call them about a PG. Maybe PG-13. Maybe. Big factor to me when I am previewing books for my kids are swear words and any sexual content. And I think they're completely appropriate for 14, 15, 16. My 13-year-old has read all of these.
Last but not least is Jane Austen. She's my favorite author of all time. I have this hefty book of my top 4 favorites, which is Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, and Persuasion. Persuasion is actually coming out as a movie later this year. I'm really excited to read it, or watch it, I should say. And I hope that it's as good as the book. I love, 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 love Jane Austen. And I think the books are so underrated sometimes. Like, don't forget about Jane Austen. There's such good books for young adults to read, and there's such wholesome stories. When my daughter's older, I hope that this is her favorite author too, and I hope she reads these. You guys, I forgot Arthur Conan Doyle. I forgot Sherlock Holmes, but that's on my list too. Those are also awesome books. I have been reading them out loud to my kids. I hope that these books help you, give you some ideas, some fresh ideas, just remind you, like, there are good books for YAs, and I hope this just sets you up for success. I know sometimes it can be overwhelming as a parent in today's society, finding good books for your kids. You can't just walk into Barnes & Noble and let them go to the shelf and pick out 30 new books. First of all, that'd be crazy expensive. And secondly, what's in them? I want my kids to read wholesome, good stories. Thanks so much for watching. Tell me if this video was helpful for you, and I look forward to seeing you guys again really soon.